All right. Hello, everyone who's in. We're just going to give it one more minute before we kick things off here. Just see if we have. I know we're going to have some stragglers coming in as we start, but we're just going to give it another 30 seconds, and then for sake of time, we'll get things moving here. We're planning on exactly a half hour, so we don't plan on going any further than that to make sure we keep within everyone's time limits here.
Is that my cue not to ramble too much, Dylan?
Exactly. We'll put the hammer down if we have to, Mary. We'll have JT yell at you.
I like it. Hey, everybody.
Hey, guys. Hey, Mary.
Hey, Yanni.
Oh, we got Brandon Blue. We have a special guest on
Brandon. We got Dan.
The party.
The one and only Yanni.
Now I know who to call on in the interactive part of the presentation.
Brandon's a spender. He definitely needs some advice.
All right, so yeah, let's kick things off here. So I'll start, and I'm sure people will be filtering in as we start here, Mary. So just to first of all, thank everyone who has jumped on so far. Appreciate everyone who's joined us on our monthly webinar here, or our virtual workshops as we're calling them. This week we've got, or this month we've got a really awesome one with Mary Saylor, a certified financial planner. She is one of our what we call strategic relationships. Mary is not only, Mary, I'm going to talk you up a little bit here, not only a really awesome person, really cool person, but she knows her stuff. She's been a trusted resource for us and our clients for years now. And we do a lot of good business together. So we know Mary brings a wealth of knowledge, and we're hoping everyone can take away a little something. If there are questions, I'll also introduce myself and JT briefly. If there are questions, feel free to throw them up in the chat. There's a Q&A section as well, whichever you choose. JT and I will keep an eye on that. And then we will make sure to either address those or get to them at the end. Real quickly, I'm Dylan Hallahan. I'm with Emmanuel Insurance, as well as JT Crosby, who's on here. JT's our director of sales within the company, and I am the director of our life, disability, long-term care insurance department. We basically specialize in those areas, as well as JT is on the commercial lines. We have personal lines as well, the home and auto. So we're really a full-service insurance firm, is how I describe it. Mary, really, we refer out for our financial planning, investment advice, things along those lines. JT, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
Yeah, just thank everyone for coming. These are quick educational pieces that Dylan and I wanted just to share knowledge, give nuggets of information. And if there's anyone that is on the call that would like to present at one of our future events, just let us know what the topic is, and we can see if we can get you onto the calendar. This is a great way for us to share knowledge and network with each other. Dylan and I will be monitoring the chat. I just put that in the chat, so Mary doesn't have to worry about it. She can go through her presentation, and we do keep a strict 30 minutes onto this, so that way people know, like, they're not lagging on, and it just stays to the way that it needs to be. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Mary Saylor to take it from here.
All right. Thanks, guys and gals. Appreciate the warm introduction there, Dylan. I believe you called me cool, as I'm about to talk about I'm about to nerd out on financial planning, so I'll go with nerdy cool. But good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for taking some time to join us today, and big thank you to Emmanuel for letting me present on financial planning. As Dylan and JT said, I'm Mary Saylor. I am a wealth advisor with Corio. My goal today is going to help you to understand what a financial plan is, help you understand if you guys need one, and the types of questions you should be able to answer when you go through a comprehensive financial planning process. So as I mentioned, I'm a wealth advisor with Corio. It's not Chorio or Choreo, as some of our clients call it. We were actually originally part of a large accounting firm across the country, and we separated our wealth management practice a few years ago now and rebranded as Corio, which is short for Choreographing Your Financial Future. That's an easy way to remember that it's Corio and not Choreo. So we're about 27 billion in assets under management as of the last count. We're in about 40 different locations across the US, and we've got a wide variety of credentials. I think this shows over 105 different credentials, but for the purpose of today, the most important credential being the CFP, when you hear that term, Certified Financial Planner. Okay, so this wheel here in the middle is representing all the different services that a comprehensive wealth management firm typically provides their clients. And today's focus is going to be on that one in the top left that says financial planning, which, if done properly, should really integrate all of these other spokes on the wheel here. So estate planning, modeling estate planning, pre and post transaction planning if you're a business owner, dynastic wealth, which is just another term for multi-generational family planning, philanthropy, which is another term for charitable planning, then obviously investment management, and that covers public and private investments, and then insurance planning and asset protection, which is obviously where a firm like Emmanuel is going to come into play. They're sort of one of our go-to from a strategic partner standpoint when we get into the insurance planning world. And then, of course, tax planning, tax efficiency, and how that all plays into financial planning. Okay, so when you're doing a truly comprehensive financial plan that touches on all of those areas of that spoke that I just went over with you, you really want to walk away being able to answer these 3 questions at a minimum. Okay, there's going to be a lot of work and detail and analysis and other questions that'll get answered when you go through a financial plan, but these are the 3 important ones at a bare minimum. So can I reach my financial goals? And that's from a personal and business standpoint. So for example, if you're a business owner, what do I need to sell my business for, net of taxes and all the costs that go into a business sale, in order to fund my lifestyle for the next 30, 40, 50 years? Or more simply, can I retire at 62, or do I have to work to 64? Answering those types of questions would fall in that category. Also, a common one, and again, where we might work with a Dylan or JT is, well, do I have enough life insurance if I were to pass away prematurely? Is my spouse going to be able to cover college for all of our kids and pay off our mortgage and still be able to live comfortably? Then the second box here, will it support my lifestyle and objectives? So that's thinking more strategically about different financial goals, whether it's funding college education based on Penn State tuition. It's a plug for my alma mater there. Or maybe it's how much can I gift to my grandkids on an annual basis? Or when should my spouse and I take Social Security? Those are some common questions that you're going to have answered in the financial planning process too. And then this last box is talking more about later in the financial planning process and the life cycle, about who gets it when I'm done. So that's where we're looking at estate planning documents, right? Your wills, your powers of attorney, your healthcare directives, and modeling out, based on estate tax, inheritance tax, what we project you're going to have and who's going to get it and what that looks like. Because that really gives us the ability to plan around the estate and maybe making some potential adjustments there to either minimize taxes or potentially spread the wealth out. I think that's pretty powerful, because once you see what that looks like later in life based on projected portfolio assets and net worth, it can be a pretty powerful planning tool there. So when you think about all of those questions, and maybe because I'm a little bit biased being a CFP myself, but I would argue that everyone should have a financial plan. But more importantly, one that is regularly reviewed and updated with you, maybe your spouse, your family, if they're involved in these types of things, and then obviously your financial advisor, if that makes sense for your situation. But it's good to go through that deep, comprehensive analysis. And then the key is keeping it updated every few years, or maybe when there's a major life event change, to determine if you're on track and why or why not. So it's important to understand that it's a very fluid process. It's great to do it once, but it needs to be updated and managed throughout your working careers, and then specifically in retirement. This chart always surprises me a little bit, and I think the data is a little outdated from 2019, but statistics show that there's 82% of Americans who don't have a retirement plan in place. And then when you think about like the more OCD folks out there, and I'm one of them, so I'm not trying to offend anybody, but the planners, the type A's, 79% of those people who you would think are, on track and have a plan in place actually don't. So just showing you that it's definitely lacking in our society and something that needs to be addressed. Okay, so there's a lot of different financial planning tools out there in the financial planning universe. We like to use eMoney. It's one that we've used over 10 years now. It's pretty cool because it gives you, like, you as the client have access to log in. You can track your net worth. You can link accounts. You can keep an eye on your investments. And then there's an advisor side where we do sort of all of our magic and the financial planning piece. So I'm going to show you all a couple slides just to give you an idea of what a financial plan looks like, some of the key reports that, again, are part of eMoney, but most financial planning tools are going to have something similar, just so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so let's say you're a client. You log into eMoney from your portal. It's going to give you a dashboard where you can look at, you'll see some of the boxes here. You can see all of your accounts if you're linking those. It can be liabilities and assets. You're able to track your net worth. You're able to look at your investment portfolio only, right? Because your net worth is going to include real estate and illiquid investments, debt. And then you can track your goals here too. So if we've decided on a certain tuition level or retirement goal, then we're keeping track of that as part of the dashboard. So that's pretty neat from the client side of the planning view. And then this is a little snapshot of a balance sheet or statement of net worth. This is typically where we'll start on a financial planning engagement after a lot of homework and data collection on your end, a lot of back and forth on questions and analyzing on our part. But we start with, what do you have, right? This is a summary of your assets, your liabilities, liquid and illiquid. We can also look at out of balance sheet assets too. If you've got trusts and other things that you don't own, they're not available for your use, but are something maybe you funded and you want to keep an eye on, like 529 plans and things of that nature. So this is sort of your starting point. I think there's a lot of value to this, specifically the balance sheet and understanding where everything is and how it's titled, because that can help us make adjustments as far as retitling things. You'll often have like a spouse who's not very engaged in what assets you have and where they are. So this alone can be a powerful tool, just kind of getting organized and keeping everybody on the same page. Then you get into the more meaty stuff. So cash flow projections. And so this is where we're typically building out what your cash flow looks like. So current day income, expenses, and then modeling that out. We typically use age 100. So our goal is, and people always say like, age 100, I'm not going to live to 100. My oldest client just passed away and she was 100 and a half. So it is possible. We like to plan for 100 because you don't want to be that person that's in a situation where you thought you were going to, make it to 90 and you end up living to 100 and don't have enough assets. So we build these cash flow projections out to age 100, and we're doing a lot of like future expense planning too, and income, right? You're going to have required minimum distributions in retirement. You're going to take Social Security at some point. You might have pensions, and then expenses. You might want to fund a wedding for your kids, or we need to take into account the cost of Medicare, long-term care, right? These are all things that are future expenses that we want to be projecting in the cash flow piece of the analysis. Then in eMoney, we've also got the ability to run different tax reports. So depending on if we're working with like a CPA, they want pretty detailed tax reports. For your general client, they don't need to see so much of the detail, but they do like the tax planning capabilities that we have in eMoney. So this this becomes really useful if you want to model, say, like a Roth conversion, right? Or maybe funding some trusts or something of that nature. It's where we can play with the different tax brackets and utilizing what's left in your current tax bracket to do some really strategic planning without creating additional taxes, because we're always trying to minimize that, right? This sometimes is where we'll bring your CPA into, depending on the situation, but we do like to be heavily involved with our clients' insurance brokers, whether it's Dylan, their estate planning attorneys, their CPAs. So this particular section, we're often working with the CPA to make sure that we're all speaking the same language and the tax return information is properly reflected. Then we get into, I touched on this briefly, the estate distributions and planning for what your estate distribution might look like for your heirs. So we can model different scenarios here with your in-estate balance sheet, your out-of-state assets, and then obviously taking into account any estate or inheritance taxes that's applicable depending on where you live. And then just modeling different scenarios around that. So in Pennsylvania, I don't know if you guys know this, but in Pennsylvania, inheritance tax, so to your spouse, there's no inheritance tax. But once it goes down to your kids, so on that second to die, there's a 4.5% inheritance tax that starts at $1. There's often some planning that we're trying to do around there, possibly modeling gifting and using annual exclusions, that type of thing. But this becomes a powerful tool when we're working through the estate planning section of a financial plan. It's also just good to kind of see what that looks like dollar-wise. All right, so then after we've built out that base case, right? We start with the base plan, the balance sheet, the cash flow, the estate distribution, some of those reports that we just talked about. We're then looking at, okay, are we successful? And successful means, again, living to age 100 and not spending down all of your money. So once we've built out that base plan, we then integrate with Monte Carlo, which is like a risk or stress test that we run on a client's base case. Because if you think about cash flow projections, right, we're taking portfolio assets, we're assuming some sort of rate of return year over year in that base case. And let's say it's 6%. We all know you don't get 6% year over year over year over year in your portfolio assets. Over time, that might be what your annualized rate of return looks like. But you know it's going to be up 12, down 4, up 7, right? It's more volatile in an actual market scenario. So what Monte Carlo does is it takes 1,000 different trial runs in a market, and it's going to stress test your situation. So showing those up 12, down 7, right? Stress testing that case. And what this is saying here, this is just an example, all fake client data. But what this is telling you is that Frank and Joanna have an 80% probability of success. And that's solving for 2 probabilities. The first being that they're both going to live to age 100. And the second being that they're not going to run out of portfolio assets. So if you think about this simply, in 1,000 different market scenarios, they have an 80% likelihood that they're not going to spend down all of their assets living to age 100. So this is where we start playing with things, right? Like some clients want to see 100%. It's unlikely and unusual. We usually try to target around 80%. That's a pretty good probability. And again, we're constantly looking at this on an annual basis or a regular basis to see if we're on track and sort of what's changed here. But this is where we start playing with things. If you're not comfortable with 80, do we need to work longer? So we play with those sort of toggles. Do we need to spend less? Different scenarios from that standpoint to try to increase our probability of success. And then sometimes that's the opposite, right? If we're highly successful, it's building out, well, what if we want to buy a shore house? Or what if we want to travel more and we want to spend, double the amount on our travel costs? These are the kinds of things that we can play with in this planning tool. And this is where clients get sort of the most engaged. It's really interactive. They start wanting to build their own toggles and looking at different scenarios, turning some things on all at once, right? Like what if I work longer, but what if I have a long-term care situation? And what if I want to gift to my kids? You can start kind of playing with different scenarios all turned on at the same time, and kind of creating what your ideal situation would be. The other key to this is you kind of see it here where it says portfolio assets. This is only factoring in your investments, your portfolio assets. So assets that you would use to pay for cash flow needs and some of those goals. And that's important because you always have your real estate, right? Assuming you own a house, your real estate and your other illiquid assets are always something that we could potentially sell and model a future sale. Downsizing is a popular one, right? You get to 80, maybe you don't need the big house, you want a ranch. That's something that we can model in here to help replenish your portfolio assets down the road. So that's another typical sort of toggle, if you will, if you see these little toggles on the left-hand side, or techniques or what ifs that we might look at. And so here's just another example of different things we can play around with. Like I mentioned, living expenses, increasing or decreasing them, changing when you take Social Security, what impact does that have? Playing with different tax rates, if there's proposed legislation out there, that's a popular one. And then long-term care is a big one. So in every single plan that we build, we're looking at, all right, what if you want to hire an in-home aide? What's that going to cost you, and how many years are you going to need to be able to fund that cost? So we'll typically look at like $100,000 to $150,000 a year. 3 to 5 years, typical, right? Actuarially, long-term care need. We'll build something like that just to show clients, here's the impact it's going to have on your portfolio assets. Are you comfortable if your portfolio assets are going to drop, say, 2 million because of that, or 1.5 million, whatever it might be? Are you comfortable with your kids not getting as much money as part of that estate distribution in that situation? And that can become pretty powerful, because that's when we start talking about, all right, do we need to look at an annuity or a life insurance product or some type of long-term care coverage so that we're protecting more of those portfolio assets? So this is a really powerful tool. It's often when Dylan, JT, Emmanuel come into play on a situation like that where we need to talk to a professional, because we don't sell those types of products, but we want to model what they might look like and the impact it's going to have on the overall plan. So that was just a quick, it's probably the quickest I've ever talked about financial planning. Very high level. I just wanted to give everybody a little snippet of what it looks like, some of the things that you should be seeing if you're going through a financial plan and working with the CFP. So I am going to open it up for Q&A. I did put my contact info here in case anybody wants to email me. I also included a link to a great resource if you are looking for a financial planner. This is going to be that letsmakeaplan.org is where you can go. You can enter your zip code, and that's how you can find a CFP. You can also note like specific things you might be looking for if you're a widow and you want somebody who has experience working with widows, or you're recently divorced and you want somebody who's got experience in that area. But I always tell people, like, doesn't matter if you use me. I'd love for you to use me, but if not, please use the CFP when you're doing a financial plan. And that's a great resource to go out and look for one in your particular zip code.
Thanks, Mary. I actually was writing down some questions as we were going along the way. And I think that's great that you have this link up here. My first question is, I know that a lot of advisors have minimums that they need to have in order to work with somebody. So like, where do people start who are, in their 30s or even 40s, and they haven't hit that, like some thresholds are 500,000, some are 1 million,
Yep.
some are, even higher than that. So how
Yep.
do like the folks like, me and
just
some of those
starting
other
out.
people?
Yeah, you're just starting out. Great question. So we don't necessarily have to manage assets, right? Like this is included in our asset management fee when we're managing assets for a client, but there's a lot of people who come to us just want a financial plan or just want to work with us on a financial planning basis. Then it's a one-time fee. You just get billed for it. It's not part of your investment portfolio management fee. That's usually like a percentage of assets under management. Then I know your next question is going to be, okay, well, how much does something like that cost? So totally depends on complexity. That's something we'd work out in like an introductory meeting where I'd ask you a bunch of questions. If you told me that you had a taxable estate and you're a business owner, right? You're kind of hitting on all of those, what I would call highly complex situations. It's going to be more expensive. If you're 30 years old and maybe just had your first baby and you just started working and you're starting to save a little bit, you've got a 401k, you're probably on the less complex side of the spectrum. Less complex, you're looking probably in the $4,000 to $7,000 range. And then we've done plans upwards of 20,000 when you're in the really complex, like, you're modeling idiots and all sorts of crazy things. So
Yeah, well, that's really good to know. One of the other questions when you were talking about planning and like the Social Security and everything, and I know we don't have a crystal ball or know these things, but I keep hearing talk about like Social Security, not necessarily going away in its entirety, but being not
it's
able
projected to only be able to pay like 80% of benefits in about 10 years or so. Yeah, that's so a lot of times we'll model something like that where you give part of like the document checklist that we give financial planning clients is going to ask for Social Security statements. We'll often reduce that by like 25%, 30%, especially for younger people, right? So I always joked to like my older clients and family members, like, I'm paying for your Social Security. How is it? Like, I'll probably never get it. That's just, I mean, I think that has a potential for a bigger domino effect and not one we're going to get into today. If it truly ran out, they've done things to make it last long, or there's more that they can do. But we do get a lot of clients that say, build a toggle that's with no Social Security. Can I make it? Right? Like people want to see worst case scenarios sometimes too, just so they can plan around that sort of thing.
Two more quick things. One, you talked about the sale of real estate. Are you seeing any of your clients and do reverse mortgages at all as part of the planning, or is that typically on like the lower end of?
Yeah, we don't like that. I don't typically see that a whole lot just because our 90% of my clients we are managing assets for, and that's just not in that's not their profile. It's expensive to do that. There is a need for it in some situations. So we get questions about it usually when it's a client's like family member or something, and we'll look into it. But usually people walk away from that just because of when they see what they're actually getting out of it. You can't like reverse mortgage 100% of your property value, for example. So.
Right. And then the last little nugget, our sales team had just got done reading the book, Die with Zero. And it, like, as you were going through that, it was making me think like, okay, like this could be a great way, like with financial planning, because that's what it's all about, doing it the right way so that you do end up dying with zero. And that doesn't mean
that would be amazing if you could figure that out. But we have that joke in this world, like, the best estate plan is when the last check bounces, right? Like, and then you did it right. But it's glad I'm glad to hear you guys are reading and educating yourselves. I'm happy to be a resource for anybody. Feel free to reach out.
Yeah, this was super helpful. This has all been recorded, and we will put this on our website, and we will also share it with the participants that were here, and also with the participants that who wanted to be here but couldn't make it. So thank you so much.
Great. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Mary. Yeah, and again, if anyone else has any other questions or they want to reach out to myself, JT, Mary, obviously feel free to do so. We can set up one-on-one meetings if you'd like. And Mary is an amazing resource, so definitely highly recommend using her.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Go enjoy the little bit of sunshine we might have for
just a little bit.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.